on paper to repeat as 4x4 champions?
Well, on paper, you see that the entire 4x4 team just isn't performing as strongly as they were in 2012. Demetrius, Ramon, Chris, and Michael were all doing very, very, very well, all running in the 44 range. You saw it in 2012, we had 2 guys in the 400-meter final. And so everyone just was at the top of their game at that point. This year, not so much. I think they're going to have a very difficult time against the U.S. team. Since 2012, the U.S. team has won every single major championship 4x400 meter relay, 2 world relay championships here, and then 2 world outdoor championships.
Do you think it bodes well for the Bahamas? Demetrius has a false start in the 200, so he does not have to run through that in that race and possibly a second round. Chris Brown doesn't do well in his individual 400s. Neither does Stephen Gardner advance to the final. All of them having an additional time to rest. Is that a silver lining on a dark cloud for them to a certain degree?
I think it can be. On a perfect day, it can be. Obviously, the 400 meters takes a lot out of you. It's a very strenuous and a very tough race to run. So the more rest and recovery that you have on your legs, the absolute better it is for you to compete. However, again, you look at what the times look like on paper this season. Chris ran mid 45 seconds in the heats of the 400 meters this year, and that was his season's best. He would have had to run in mid 44s, almost a full second faster, to be on par with where he was in 2012. So I think even with the rest, it's going to be difficult for them to compete against the United States, who has LaShawn Merritt, Tony McQuay, Gil Roberts, David Verber,
right,
who have all run under 45 seconds this year consistently.
Consistently is what a lot of people are pointing out as well. Do you think it's different? You've run for UNC. You've also run for the Bahamas at a national and international level. Is there a little bit more that you can dig deeper to when you know that you have something to run for, such as the Bahamas or even your collegiate push? Is that something that we can tangibly touch and say this is what they can tap into to run better?
Absolutely. Once you get on the track in the competition, I always call the crowd the 5th man on the relay. Because you have all of your natural and trained abilities, but you also have the adrenaline of the moment, you have the excitement of the Olympic Games, and you have the opportunity to really rise to the occasion. We have a team this year that's kind of balanced between experienced runners as well as those that are a bit younger and less experienced but are running fast times. And so it'll be very interesting to see if we're able to rise to the occasion tomorrow.
Tomorrow, first round, you know what's in the pool. If you were head coach, who would you put out there as the first 4 for tomorrow in the heats?
In the heats. That's a tough call. You know, it's a tough call. The Bahamas it doesn't have the depth that we used to have in the 400 meters this year. Definitely you have to get Chris on there because he has the experience to go through the rounds. Stephen is running the best times this year. Stephen,
and he's had a long time to rest.
And he's had a long time to rest, so I would put him in there as well. Demetrius is always a sure bet in terms of running a really strong second leg. He's gonna make the break first. He's gonna keep you in contention. And then I would put Alonzo Russell there. Of course, he's qualified in the open 400 meters. Unfortunately, because we don't have that kind of depth, I think that Stephen Newbold is out of his league at this point. He's still a great competitor, but in terms of ensuring that we get a spot in that final, I think we have to go with those 4.
If we make the final, do you think that that's the same team that you repeat with?
Absolutely, absolutely. Depending on how they run in the heat, will determine whether or not we switch up the order. And that would be just a matter of who is it on those first 2 legs that can get us in best contention, and then who has enough guts to bring us home on the ankle leg.
Best case scenario for our men, where do you think that they fit in?
Best case scenario, again, it's the Olympic Games. I think anything can happen. The United States has had a strong hold on that event for a very long time until we upset them in 2012. It's going to be difficult to beat that team this year. Of course, Jamaica is going after their first Olympic medal in the 4x400 meter relay since the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. Great Britain has been consistent over the last 8 Olympic Games. They've placed in the top 5, and so, you know, like I said, once you get into the finals, anything can happen. We've seen so many different upsets this Olympic Games. Anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Now, unlike our men, our women's 4x4 team, pretty much new to this Olympic experience. They made it in after the saga, which didn't allow Russian athletes to compete, but they will definitely be looking to make the most of their opportunity there. The women's 4x4 semis right before the men. Team Bahamas will also go out in Heat 2, Lane 6. They run at about 7:51 The qualifying standard again is the same as the men, top 3 in each heat, and then the next 2 fastest times going to the final on Saturday. Making up that relay pool will be Olympic champion in the women's 400, Shawnee Miller, Christine Amatil, Lenice Clark, Kamisha Cox, Shaniqua Dorset, and Anthony Strong. Again, this is a relatively young team, save for Christine. Where do you see that this team really is going to be the linchpin? If they could do anything to move on, what do you think they're going to have to do?
I think this is a great experience for the girls, but again, when you look at on paper what we're able to show in terms of their individual times this year, they may be a bit out of their league in terms of making it to the finals. Them getting into the Olympic Games and being able to qualify, I think they were one of the last teams to qualify, and were
they only got there because Russia they knocked Russia out.
Absolutely, and so just them being there, I know that Christine has been around for a long time. She and I were training partners in Atlanta at the end of my career. Of course, we have this year's Olympic champion, Shawnee Miller. The two of those have the experience to be able to be contenders in this particular event. But again, you have to look at the inexperience of the other girls that are there.
Do you think that the team and probably the country is placing a lot of hope on Shawnee Miller?
I think that's inevitable. I mean, with the United States, they put a lot of hope on Michael Johnson. With Jamaica's putting all the eggs in one basket with Usain Bolt. And that's what you do when you're the star of the team. You know, that's the pressure that you assume, and rightly so. However, it's like having a movie with a main star and no supporting characters. In this instance, just the other girls just aren't as strong. So they can't run 4 legs by herself. And so it's going to be very interesting to see how things shape up through the heats tomorrow, and how the girls respond to the pressure, to the environment, to the competition. Of course, the United States will have 4 girls, 3 of whom have run under 50 seconds this year. Natasha Hastings is always a beast in the 400-meter relay, 4x400-meter relay. Of course, Allison Felix, Francine McCrory, Phyllis Francis. And so, you know, it's just going to be tough. And of course, Jamaica is a surprise winner last year at the World Championships in the 4x400-meter relay. So, you know, it's just going to be really interesting to see how the Bahamas can respond to the pressure and rise to the occasion.
So in your mind, Shawnee has to run tomorrow in the heats.
If they expect to make it past the heats, yes, absolutely, she has to run. And if she doesn't run, I think it's going to be very difficult for the girls.
If almost impossible.
There's nothing's impossible. This is the Olympic Games. It's impossible to win the 400 meters and set a world record out of lane 8, but Van der Kerk did it a few nights ago.
Lane 7.
Lane 7, yeah, but anything
is possible. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. Again, the Bahamas will be on, we'll have it here live on ZNS TV 13. They're running around 7 o'clock our time, well, in the 7 o'clock hour at 7:50.